Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. You're watching Paperback Prodigy. So in this video, I want to talk about our pre-board preparation. I'm sure all of you would have written your first pre-board, but this can help you improve your preparation way, how you revise and everything for your second pre-boards. I understood from this pre-board that I have to speeden up my maths calculations because I did not get a single minute for rechecking my questions. I could recheck only 2 questions. I could not recheck more than that. Then for science, I understood that I have to go more in deep about chemistry's reactions because I forgot most of the reactions and I ended up writing the OR question. By God's grace, there was an OR question, else I would be stuck in that situation. And then in bio, it was fine mostly until we reached the part of diagrams. The thing was that I had to manage my time efficiently, which I did not do that good. So I ditched the diagram question and chose the other option that we had where it was only written. So diagram was the easier one, which I knew very well, but since I did not have time, I stuck to writing. And then after that, from our English paper this year, I realized that it was a really good thing that I did MCQs. I'm going to mention all of this further in the video, but I'm just telling my understandings from my pre-board. English, I understood that we have to take an extra effort and take extra questions from other sources. Sanskrit paper, it was today. I finished the exam today. I understood that I have to learn the grammar rules. There is no escape from that. I have to learn the basic grammar rules and cannot get done with the grammars in Sanskrit just by hearting the textbook portions of it. So I have made a plan what I have to do after this pre-board for the next one. So I'm here to help you all with it as well. So all my pre-boards are done, just my SST is left. That's on 18th of December. So I can tell you about the previous subjects, how I prepared and how I will be preparing today night and tomorrow the whole day for my SST pre-board. So let's start with English, the first language subject that we have. So for my pre-boards, I made my own to-do list in English and completed my portions according to the to-do list. So what all did I write in the to-do list? I wrote all the lessons, all the poems, and all the supplementary book lessons. So as and when I completed a chapter fully, I ticked each chapter and went and I got an idea on how much is left, which all are easier, which I could do first in least amount of time and which would need the most amount of time. And I wrote down all our grammar portions. So I wrote them all down. So at the beginning, this was like almost half a month before the pre-board's final week. So I wrote how many questions of each I did, how many questions of determiners, and then I saw which I practiced the most and which I did the least. Accordingly, I did more. What all did I actually revise the day before my English pre-board? I had my guide with me, which was Educat's English guide for this year. So with that guide, I just completely learned the guide. I remember doing the grammar questions of it for my quarterly exam and half yearly. So I did not do the grammar questions from that, but did it from somewhere else. But rest of the literature part, I did it completely from my guide. I had read the NCERT textbooks earlier and highlighted it while I was studying it itself. So the day before the exam, I just went through the highlighted points instead of reading the whole chapter and quickly summarized it in my head. From my guide, I did the MCQ questions of each and every chapter that they provided. Then I did extracts. They give the extracts right after the summary of the chapter and the character sketch and word meanings, everything. There were extract questions. Then there was a summary right before all the questions started. Then theme of the chapter. After that, there was short answers, long answer questions. I read all of those. Then character sketch of each character was given. So that as well I read. Character sketch is important. It can come as either a 3-mark question or it can come as a 6-mark question to learn, analyze how the character changed throughout the story, how the character was in the beginning and towards the end of the lesson. So then literary devices is also important because in these extracts, for the prose extract, a literary device can be asked, and that was asked in this pre-board of mine. The extract that I chose to write was The Custard the Dragons by Ogden Nash. So in that, they gave us 4 options and they asked us which of these is hyperbole. So then one of the options was Belinda laughed till she shook the house. So that is the correct one because you cannot literally shake a house when you laugh. So in that manner, literary devices can be asked in your extracts. And then learning the names of every poet and every author is important. Then we have to just literally by heart the writing section format, by heart the letter format, because these are places where we can score very easily. So if we go make a mistake there, we'll feel extremely sad because it's an easy scoring area. If you get the format in your head, if you literally paste the format in the paper, you'll get the format in marks correct. And then the starting intro line, that format, if you have that starting line, that ending line, that way to format your words, if you have it in your mind, you can go through a writing section very smoothly. And then we have analytical paragraph also. So what I do usually is that for the third paragraph, we have to do a summary. So there I put this equilibrium and where all it is same. So then I can end it like this. In a nutshell, these are what happened, and it was equilibrium in these 2 years with slight fluctuations in the next forthcoming years. Grammar. Grammar is going to be extremely easy if you learn the rules, especially of subject-verb agreement. They are just so interesting. Okay, there are some exemptions, like when they give us a line of a poem and tell us to write the correct word. There are some exceptions when it comes to grammar, but error correction, read it carefully and think of it like a text. Alright, so as I told earlier, I read my EduCard English guide on the previous day and did the reading of everything in the guide to my best capability, trying my best not to strain myself or make myself feel too saturated. And also I did grammar from many sample papers instead of doing a different MCQ book by Oswald. So now let's move on to our next subject. After English, let's take maths. So here as well, I did the same thing. I made a to-do list and completed the work based on priority and that to chapter wise. At this point of time for the revision for my pre-board, the studies for my pre-board where I'm completing my portions, that time I did not do any R.S. Agarwal or R.D. Sharma questions. I just stuck to NCERT and NCERT's examples. I did do many sample papers for practice, and similar questions that I did from that I did in the sample paper even came for my pre-board. I noticed that especially in MCQs. You should do all the NCERT questions, exercises at least once. At least once you should have done that chapter's NCERT exercise at some point of time, so you have some idea on what to do it. Despite doing all the exercises, I still faced a problem in quadratic equation. If you know the upstream downstream questions, I faced a problem during my half yearly that at that time I felt, okay, I've done quadratic equations properly for my quarterly exam. I'm fine with quadratic equations. I completely forgot there were questions like upstream, downstream. That is where I lost around 2.5 marks to 3 marks. It was a 5-mark answer. There was no or option, so I lost marks there because I couldn't get to a correct final answer. But the thing is that I wrote all the steps, all the data in the correct order during the last days of revisions. Like maths was our first exam, so we got 3 days preparatory holiday. So during that time, I did all the example questions in maths. That is really important because some proof or identity of trigonometry can come from the example question. That's there. And then all the theorems. We got asked BPT, basic proportionality theorem. Then in our pre-board recently, they asked us radius is perpendicular to tangent. They asked us that. Okay, now next point is do not skip the formulas, especially of the main chapters like trigonometric identities or surface area and volumes formula. If we don't know that, we won't be able to do any of those questions. So if we know the formula, at least we can substitute the values and try to get a final value, final answer. It might go wrong, might not go wrong. We may have some decimal difference, or we may have put our decimal point in the wrong place. But because of the steps that we do, that we show each step where we substitute pi's value, where we substitute the radius and height value, and write in each formula at the beginning of doing the whole sum is very important. Because if they know that you have the formula, sometimes in some questions formula carries marks. Tricks that help us solve the questions accurately. So you know a trick to solve for any number into 11, right? Practice MCQ questions because they sometimes are tricky. Try extra questions, sample papers, solve it, put a timer, make sure you get extra time to recheck, and then try your best to not skip any chapters. I feel it is very required to know at least something about each chapter. If you have not gone in detail about the chapter, at least have a summary of the chapter. At least have all the formulas of the chapter in your mind. Try attempting a few questions, which I did with the example questions, because you have to have some idea. Means you have it, you have to apply it once. I'm going to talk about presentation of maths paper. I like maths paper a lot. Not that it's easy paper, but still, it's all about understanding and writing. Write all the steps with given data in the top, like r is equal to 7 centimeter, h is equal to 24 centimeter, and centimeter and meter. Do not ever forget the unit, that carries mark. Do not mess up the unit at all, no matter what happens. Unit is extremely important. Then draw a figure for questions where they've provided a figure, or even if they've not provided a figure, draw the figure, because the figure also carries marks sometimes. The final answer, always make sure that stands out. Sometimes we make mistake, yes, our final answer may be wrong. It just happened with me where my final answer is utter nonsense and nowhere near the correct answer. Double underline your final answer. I write conclusion line. So if an age question is asked, conclude and write the father's age is this much, the son's age is that. So this is a problem, a question that I have asked myself. Should I take an extra working sheet from the teacher, or should I do it in the column, draw rough column and do it there? I have always been doing it as drawing a rough column instead of taking an extra sheet. So I'm comfortable with drawing a rough column in every single page on the right hand side. So mainly for working. So I feel it's better to do it in the same page as the question, because sometimes, and I repeat this only sometimes, if we by some chance get a teacher who is correcting our paper and they may or they might, very less probability, check the working column to see whether we worked the answer correctly but accidentally wrote it wrong. So the teacher might give us the half mark there extra for that we worked it right. कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो गया था कॉपी करने में, वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं होना चाहिए पर होता है ना. So that's there. It's very unlikely something like that happens, but still I find it easier to keep my workings all in right next to the question. So the question and its working all together, and do not leave any question. I've told this to myself a million times. Do not leave any question, write at least the formula or the data if we don't know the entire answer, and try to finish the paper before time so that we get time to recheck, because maths is a subject we have to recheck. We will make silly mistakes, we will make all sorts of problems. MCQs, we may end up writing the wrong MCQ in a very sudden time. We are running through the 20 MCQs, we may write the wrong one. So done talking about maths, let's now slowly jump on to science. Here also, just like I've told in the beginning of each subject, I made my own to-do list and wrote all the work that I had to complete based on priority. Same here. I am a sort of person who cannot take difficult chapters first. I take the easy chapters, complete them quickly, keep my mind and soul happy that I've done something, and then I take the difficult chapters and cry about it. It's all normal, everybody does it. So then some things to not miss in science is that NCERT ka in-text questions, we may miss it, but in-text questions are asked in test papers or even in the exams. And then back page exercise that they give in the NCERT after each chapter, that is needed. After that, in physics we have example questions, so that is actually really nice. So all the physics formulas are to be learned, then chemistry reactions, and if the reaction has any name like esterification, saponification, combustion reaction, addition reaction, so they may ask write down an addition reaction. And then in bio and physics, all the diagrams, and the thing that I'm saying physics as well is because they asked us in our pre-board to draw the domestic circuits diagram. Yes, series and parallels will be asked for sure. It was asked for me. Derivations, it was asked for me. Derive formula for connection in series, combination of resistance. And then keywords in bio especially, and chemistry we have to write long answers for explain or describe why this happens. Then keywords are there that get us the mark. It's very important. When they ask a question of variation, we have to write about the examples. So that's my next point. Write definitions and examples. I have seen most of the exemption cases in chemistry. That is important. Which metal reacts with which acid. And then MCQs practice, of course, if you have time. And try sample papers. I tried writing 2 sample papers fully, and I did MCQs from 3 sample papers. Only the MCQs, because I needed MCQs. And yes, so here as well, do not try to skip any chapters. Now quickly, we are running over to social science. My social science exam is the last exam in my first pre-board. I am supposed to be studying for it today and tomorrow. I'm going to sit tonight and study. Main thing is at least read an NCERT once while we are studying the chapter. And how do we mostly study is from the text. I study from the textbook. So I take my text, I open each topic and study each topic's points. So in that manner, I've read the textbook and also read the points of it. So then try the back page questions. I've noticed this in geography. They give MCQs in geography. Try learning the dates. I don't like to do it, but we'll have to, right? If not the exact date, at least the year. So, an approximate number you have for writing to make your point more, we can say, authentic, make it a more real point. If we are in a situation where we are unable to write properly for the question, anything at that point can help us improve that answer. So then read the summaries of the chapters either from a guide or online right before the exam, pre-board exam, so that 1 day gap that you get or 2 days gap that you get, instead of sitting to read the entire chapters, that is not possible. So I have my guide right now and I'm reading from my guide. So there's Oswald. I read that Oswald social science guide, all of its MCQs, its summary, its subjective questions, its case-based questions, its objective questions, its assertion reason. Assertion reason is really important. It comes tricky. It comes in crooked ways. So that's also important. Think in assertion reason. Then same as what I said in bio, the keywords instead of the long by heart answers. So like that keyword will change the entire course of the answer. So then word definition. So let's take just 2 definitions from politics. Learn from the textbook. Try your best to learn from the textbook. Practice MCQs and assertion reason. And one more presentation tip is that write all the answers in points. Our evaluator does not have the time to read through our entire paragraphs that we blabber about. Write it as main points. So when they see the points, they'll need to, 1.1 mark. So even if we have written like 7 points, if the first 5 are correct, that'll do. If it's wrong, okay, they'll check the next one. If two of them are wrong, okay, the next backup point that we have written. So write as points. I write as points for every question except for 2-mark questions. And sometimes in 2 marks also I write in points depending on what the question is. So then I am planning to practice sample papers as well for SST because I want to get an idea of how the MCQs are going to come, especially to not skip the chapters. Each chapter should be done at least once. At least once we should have gone through the chapter at least once throughout 10th. So we have some vague idea about it and something we can write. That is not the best way. But if we have no other choice, then we have something that we can write. So then that's all from me. So in general, learn assertion reasons for all the subjects and their MCQs and recheck your paper. Find time for it. And then it won't be possible to read all the chapters का NCERT before the exam. So summaries है online में और short notes भी है कुछ YouTube channels पर, शोभित भैया के चैनल पर short notes है, सभी सब्जेक्ट के हैंड रिटन या प्रिंटेड नोट्स है SST के लिए और फिर साइंस के लिए. और मुझे मैथ्स के बारे में नहीं पता, आई थिंक मैथ्स के लिए भी है. शोभित भैया तो मैथ्स टीचर है तो फिर मैथ्स के लिए डेफिनेटली होगा. और मैं प्रशांत सर के एक इंग्लिश वीडियो देख रही थी. सो उस वीडियो में इंग्लिश का राइटिंग सेक्शन का चीट शीट था. तो फिर उस राइटिंग सेक्शन में कुछ लाइंस दिए गए थे कि एक फॉर्मल लेटर, कंप्लेंट लेटर के लिए स्टार्टिंग लाइन्स ये होना चाहिए और फिर एक फायरी लेटर में स्टार्टिंग लाइन्स ये होना चाहिए. तो फिर वो ईजी था रिवाइज करने के लिए लास्ट मिनट में. और फिर यू कैन वॉच 1 short videos. And then before we even start revising, say your pre-boards have not started yet. So before you start revising, first finish the entire syllabus. If the topics are difficult, like for example metallurgy and chemistry, that is really difficult for me to remember everything. So then watch their online explanatory videos. Prashant sir is always there and Shobit Bhaiya is there for maths. Then we have Digrat sir for SST, which I don't do from online that much. I don't do English online that much, that's it. So yeah, I hope this video helped you. It took me a lot of time jotting down my points, all that I want to convey to you all. So if it's helpful for you, do share it to your friends as well. It'll help them as well. Comment down below how your pre-boards went or whether there are any more points that you can add to this so it can help us and everybody watching. So, good morning, good evening, good night, depending on when you're watching. Signing off, Paperback Prodigy.